Welcome back to the channel, basketball fans, to what might just be the single most explosive and landscape-altering episode we have ever produced. We are standing on the precipice of a monumental shift in the National Basketball Association, a tectonic movement that threatens to redefine the balance of power in both the Eastern and Western conferences for the next decade. Today, we are breaking down two absolutely massive, earth-shattering reports that have sent shockwaves through front offices, locker rooms, and fan bases across the globe. We are talking about unprecedented sacrifices, strategic masterstrokes, high-stakes gambles, and the relentless pursuit of championship glory. Grab a seat and lock in, because the news we are unpacking today is going to dictate the future of the league in ways we are only just beginning to comprehend. Let us start with the Western Conference, where a quiet storm is brewing down in Bexar County. The San Antonio Spurs, a franchise synonymous with tactical brilliance, stoic professionalism, and a dynastic lineage of legendary big men, are reportedly on the verge of orchestrating a front-court assembly that sounds like it was ripped straight out of video game simulation. The headline that is breaking the internet right now is that Victor Wembanyama, the generational prodigy, the alien himself, is fully expected and prepared to take a significant financial pay cut on his upcoming contract extension. And why is the most hyped prospect in the history of the sport willingly leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table? He is doing it to pave the way for the San Antonio Spurs to acquire and accommodate the contracts of two specific, highly coveted big men, Kristaps Porzingis and Robert Williams III. Just let that sink in for a moment. In an era defined by player empowerment, supermax contracts, and superstars fighting tooth and nail for every single guaranteed dollar, a young player who has the entire basketball world in the palm of his hand is actively choosing to prioritize team building over his own immediate financial maximization. This is a move that echoes the legendary sacrifices made by Spurs icon Tim Duncan, who famously took less money during the twilight of his career to ensure Greg Popovich and R.C. Buford could keep a championship-caliber roster intact. But Wembanyama is doing this at the dawn of his career. It is a staggering declaration of intent. It tells the rest of the league that Victor Wembanyama is not here to simply be a wealthy superstar. He is here to build an empire by restructuring his financial future. Wembanyama is effectively handing the Spurs front office the salary cap flexibility required to construct what would undoubtedly be the most terrifying, imposing, and physically overwhelming frontcourt the NBA has seen in the modern era. We are talking about pairing the 7'4" Wembanyama with the 7'3" Kristaps Porzingis, creating a twin tower lineup that possesses unlimited shooting range, unparalleled rim protection, and an ability to completely break the geometry of a basketball court. And if that was not enough, adding Robert Williams III to the equation introduces an element of ferocious, switchable, high-flying athleticism and elite weak-side shot blocking that would make the Spurs paint an absolute no-fly zone. This is a deliberate, calculated rejection of the modern small ball philosophy. The Spurs are zigging while the rest of the league is zagging, attempting to win through sheer size, length, and overwhelming defensive disruption. But as mind-blowing as the situation in San Antonio is, we have to immediately pivot our attention to the Eastern Conference, where an equally fascinating and frankly shocking narrative is unfolding in the Motor City. The Detroit Pistons, who completely stunned the basketball universe by transforming into an absolute juggernaut and finishing this past season as a lone 60-win team in the Eastern Conference, are now aggressively looking to push their chips to the middle of the table. Despite their phenomenal, historic regular season success under head coach J.B. Bickerstaff, the Pistons suffered a heartbreaking second-round playoff exit, proving that regular season dominance does not automatically translate to postseason triumph. The mandate in Detroit is clear. They need a veteran closer, a proven champion, an elite shot creator who can take the pressure off their superstar point guard, Cade Cunningham, when the game slows down and the stakes are at their absolute highest. And who have the Pistons identified as their primary number one target? None other than one of the most mesmerizing, polarizing, and exceptionally gifted offensive players in the history of the sport, Kyrie Irving. According to NBA insiders, the Pistons are aggressively exploring options in the marketplace to land the Dallas Mavericks superstar guard. This is a development that almost defies logic at first glance, but when you peel back the layers, it reveals a fascinating desperation and ambition within the Pistons organization. Irving, of course, comes with a massive caveat. He missed the entire previous season recovering from a devastating torn left ACL. For a franchise that just won 60 games to target a 34-year-old guard coming off a major knee reconstruction is a gamble of astronomical proportions. Yet, the rationale is crystal clear. The Pistons recognize that while Cade Cunningham has ascended to bona fide superstardom, carrying the offense alongside Jalen Duren in the grueling crucible of the playoffs was simply too heavy a burden. Detroit lacked that secondary offensive engine, that perimeter assassin who could completely break down a defense in isolation when the offensive system bogs down. Kyrie Irving, even at the stage of his career and coming off an injury, represents the ultimate luxury in half-court execution. His championship pedigree, his unmatched ball-handling wizardry, and his innate ability to hit heavily contested, demoralizing shots make him the theoretical perfect complement to Cunningham's methodical, probing style of play. However, acquiring Irving is not going to be a walk in the park. Reports indicate that the Dallas Mavericks are incredibly reluctant to part ways with him, despite his recent injury history. The Mavericks view Irving as an invaluable mentor to their rising star and reigning Rookie of the Year, Cooper Flagg. The bond between Irving and Flagg is reportedly phenomenal, and Dallas management is desperate to see the two of them share the court fully healthy next season. This creates a massive standoff. You have a Detroit Pistons team hungry, desperate to validate their 60-win season and make a legitimate push for the NBA Finals, locking onto a target that the Dallas Mavericks are fiercely protecting for developmental and cultural reasons. This sets the stage for what could be the most dramatic, complex, and impactful offseason in recent memory. On one side, we have Victor Wembanyama attempting to engineer a colossal frontcourt monopoly in San Antonio through sheer personal sacrifice, taking a pay cut to bring in Kristaps, Porzingis, and Robert Williams. On the other side, we have the powerhouse Detroit Pistons, reeling from a premature playoff exit, looking to roll the dice on a rehabbing Kyrie Irving to elevate them from regular season warriors to true championship contenders. Both of these storylines involve massive risks. Both involve incredible sums of money, draft capital, and human capital. And both have the potential to completely rewrite the power dynamics of the league. We are talking about the potential creation of a defensive dynasty in Texas and an offensive powerhouse in Michigan. The league is holding its collective breath, waiting to see which domino falls first. Now, let's transition into a deep dive analysis of exactly how these two seismic shifts would practically function on the basketball court, starting with the sheer audacity of the San Antonio Spurs master plan. When you analyze the modern NBA, the trend for the last decade has been clear. Downsize, spread the floor, switch everything defensively, and prioritize quickness over sheer size. The Spurs, under the watchful eye of their brain trust, seem to have looked at that prevailing wisdom and decided to tear it into pieces. By targeting Kristaps, Porzingis, and Robert Williams to pair with Victor Wembanyama, they are attempting to build a roster that imposes its will through insurmountable length and verticality. Let's break down the offensive fit first. The genius of adding Kristaps Porzingis lies in his unique physical profile and his evolution as a player. Porzingis is not a traditional back-to-the-basket big man who will clog the paint and crowd Wembanyama's driving lanes. He is one of the premier floor-spacing bigs in the history of the game. When you have a 7'3" center who can comfortably step out to logo and demand a defender stick to him, you completely open up the interior geometry of the court. Imagine the pick-and-roll scenarios. If Wembanyama is handling the ball, which we know he is incredibly capable of doing, and Porzingis is setting the screen, the defense is put in an impossible bind. If they drop, Porzingis pops for a wide-open three-pointer that he shoots at an elite clip. If they switch, you suddenly have a guard trying to contest a shot from a player who can release the ball 11 feet in the air. Furthermore, this spacing allows Wembanyama the ultimate freedom to operate in the high post, the low block, or attacking from the perimeter. Wembanyama thrives when he has space to use his ball handling and agility. With Porzingis dragging the opposing team's largest rim protector out to the three-point line, Wembanyama will frequently find himself matched up against smaller, overmatched forwards who have zero chance of contesting his shot or stopping his momentum to the rim. It is an offensive synergy that is incredibly difficult to game plan against because it breaks the fundamental rules of defensive rotation. But as potent as the offense could be, the defensive implications of this trio are what truly make this a terrifying proposition for the rest of the league. Victor Wembanyama has already established himself as a generational defensive talent, a player who routinely leads the league in blocks and completely alters the shot profile of any team he faces. Players simply stop driving into the paint when he is lurking. Now, add Robert Williams III to that equation. Williams, when healthy, is arguably one of the most explosive, instinctive, and versatile defensive big men in the NBA. He possesses an uncanny ability to rotate from the weak side, erase mistakes, and challenge shots at the apex. If the Spurs deploy a lineup featuring both Wembanyama and Williams, they are essentially creating a defensive net that covers the entire half court. Williams has a lateral quickness to survive on the perimeter when switched onto smaller guards, allowing Wembanyama to roam the baseline as a free safety. Or they can invert it. The sheer wingspan on the floor would shrink passing lanes to non-existence. Opposing offenses would be forced into taking contested, late-clock jump shots because getting to the rim would be a mathematical impossibility. And if you somehow manage to get past Williams, you still have the towering presence of Wembanyama waiting to swat the attempt into the third row. Then you factor in Kristaps Porzingis, who is a highly underrated rim protector in his own right. While he may not have the switchability of Williams, his sheer size and timing make him a formidable deterrent in drop coverage. The Spurs could legitimately play 48 minutes a night with an elite 7-foot-plus rim protector anchoring their defense at all times. The physical toll this would take on opposing teams cannot be overstated. Basketball is a game of attrition, and facing a relentless wave of giants for 4 quarters is enough to break the will of even the most potent offensive units. However, we must address the elephant in the room regarding the San Antonio strategy, the catastrophic risk of injury. The reason Wembanyama is taking a pay cut to facilitate this is because acquiring these players requires significant salary cap maneuvering, and paying top dollar for Porzingis and Williams is inherently dangerous. Kristaps Porzingis has a lengthy and well-documented history of lower body injuries. His availability has always been the biggest question mark surrounding his immense talent. Robert Williams, similarly, has struggled immensely to stay on the floor throughout his career, dealing with chronic knee issues that have derailed his momentum time and time again. The Spurs medical staff, renowned as one of the best in the business, will have their work cut out for them. The entire viability of this front-court experiment hinges entirely on load management, meticulous physical therapy, and a tremendous amount of luck. If Porzingis and Williams are frequently relegated to the sidelines in street clothes, Wembanyama's financial sacrifice will have been in vain, and the Spurs will find themselves saddled with expensive rehabilitation projects rather than championship pieces. This is a high-wire act of roster construction. The ceiling is a multi-year dynasty that fundamentally changes how basketball is played. The floor is a frustrating, injury-plagued disaster that wastes the early years of Wembanyama's prime. It is a massive gamble, but given potential reward, it is a gamble the Spurs clearly feel is worth taking. Now, shifting our focus back to the Eastern Conference and the incredible drama surrounding the Detroit Pistons and their pursuit of Kyrie Irving. To truly understand the magnitude of this potential move, we have contextualized what happened in Detroit this past season. Winning 60 games in the modern NBA is a Herculean achievement. It requires consistency, depth, elite coaching, and a star player performing at an MVP level. Cade Cunningham provided all of that and more. He ascended to the upper echelon of NBA superstars, orchestrating the offense with a poise and maturity far beyond his years. The Pistons were a well-oiled machine, dismantling opponents with a balanced attack and a ferocious defensive intensity. But the playoffs, as we all know, are an entirely different beast. The game slows down. Defenses lock in on your primary options, the Whistle Swallows. In their second-round exit, the Pistons' glaring weakness was exposed to the entire world to see. They lacked a proven isolation scorer who could create something out of nothing when the system broke down. Jalen Duren, despite a phenomenal regular season, struggled to impact the game offensively against sophisticated playoff defenses. The supporting cast, while talented, lacked the requisite experience and shot-making ability to punish teams for loading up on Cunningham. The Pistons' offense stagnated, and their dream season ended in bitter disappointment. This is exactly why the front office has circled Kyrie Irving's name on their whiteboards. Irving is the ultimate antidote to a stagnant playoff offense. He is arguably the most skilled ball handler to ever touch a basketball, possessing a dazzling array of crossovers, hesitations, and spin moves that allow him to get to his spots against any defender in the league. He is a three-level scorer who shoots an exceptional percentage from beyond the arc, possesses an elite mid-range pull-up game, and finishes around the rim with a degree of English and touch that borders on the magical. Imagine the pressure placed on an opposing defense trying to contain a backcourt of Cade Cunningham and Kyrie Irving. Cunningham is a maestro, the big, physical point guard who reads the floor impeccably, manipulates pick and rolls, and consistently makes the right read. If you double-team Cunningham, he has the vision to find the open man. And if that open man is Kyrie Irving, the possession is practically a guaranteed bucket. Conversely, if the offense bogs down late in the fourth quarter, Cunningham can simply hand the ball to Irving, clear out, and let one of the greatest one-on-one players in history go to work. Irving thrives in the crucible of pressure. We have all seen him hit the biggest shots on the biggest stages. He brings a level of championship swagger and fearless shot-making that the young Pistons desperately need. However, the pursuit of Irving is fraught with its own unique set of immense risks and complications. First and foremost is his health. Irving missed the entirety of the 2025 to 2026 season recovering from a torn left ACL. At 34 years old, returning from a major knee reconstruction is an incredibly daunting task. While modern medicine and rehabilitation protocols have advanced significantly, there is absolutely no guarantee that Irving will return with the same explosive first step, the same lateral quickness, or the same ability to absorb contact at the rim. The Pistons will be betting a massive portion of their future on the medical charts of an aging superstar. If Irving returns as a diminished version of himself, unable to consistently break down defenders, the Pistons will have mortgaged their flexibility for a player who cannot push them over the championship threshold. Beyond the physical concerns, there are the logistical hurdles of actually acquiring him from the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks are not a team looking to rebuild. They are looking to contend. Furthermore, the reports clearly state that Dallas values Irving immensely, not just for his on-court production when healthy, but for his profound impact as a mentor to Cooper Flagg. Flagg, coming off a spectacular Rookie of the Year campaign, has reportedly formed a strong bond with Irving. The Mavericks front office views Irving's experience, his basketball IQ, and his leadership as critical components in Flagg's continued development into a franchise cornerstone. Prying Irving away from Dallas will require a monumental trade package. The Pistons would likely have to part with a combination of high-value draft picks, promising young talent, and potentially rotation pieces that were vital to their 60-win season. Players like Isaiah Stewart, who has reportedly been placed on the trade block, would almost certainly have to be included to make the salaries match. The Pistons have asked themselves a very difficult question. How much of their core depth and future assets are they willing to sacrifice for a 34-year-old coming off a torn ACL? It is a delicate balancing act. On one hand, you don't want to waste the momentum of a 60-win season by standing pat. On the other hand, you don't want to overreact to a playoff series loss and make a desperate, short-sighted trade that hollows out your roster and closes your championship window before it even fully opens. The introduction of Trey Murphy III as an alternative target for the Pistons highlights their awareness of this dilemma. Murphy represents a much safer, albeit perhaps slightly less explosive, option. He is younger, possesses incredible length, and is a dead-eye shooter from the perimeter. Adding Murphy would address the Pistons' need for spacing and wing defense without carrying the massive physical and financial risks associated with Irving. But Murphy is not the dynamic, ball-in-hand creator that Irving is. If the Pistons acquire Murphy, they are still banking on Cunningham to shoulder the vast majority of the shot creation responsibilities. It is a philosophical debate within the Pistons front office. Swing for the fences with a high-risk, high-reward superstar in Irving, or make a safer, more calculated addition with a player like Murphy, who raises the floor but might not raise the ceiling quite as dramatically. As we pull back and look at the broader landscape, the sheer magnitude of these potential moves becomes even more apparent. We are witnessing two franchises operating in completely different contexts, attempting to navigate the unforgiving terrain of NBA contention. The San Antonio Spurs are playing the long game, trying to maximize the unprecedented potential of Victor Wembanyama by surrounding him with a meticulously curated collection of giants. Wembanyama's willingness to take a pay cut is the linchpin of this entire operation. It is a refreshing injection of old-school team-first mentality into a league often dominated by individual financial optimization. If the Spurs can pull this off, and they can somehow keep Porzingis and Williams healthy, they are going to unleash a defensive monster that the NBA has not seen in decades. They will force teams to adapt to them, dictating the terms of engagement through sheer physical dominance. Meanwhile, the Detroit Pistons are operating with a fierce sense of urgency. Their 60-win season was a revelation, but also raised expectations to an astronomical level. They are no longer a fun, young, up-and-coming team. They are expected to contend for a title right now. The pursuit of Kyrie Irving is a testament to that pressure. It is a bold, aggressive attempt to skip steps and immediately insert a championship caliber closer into their lineup. The Pistons are fully aware of the risks regarding Irving's age and his recovering knee, but they are terrified of the alternative, remaining a fantastic regular season team that consistently falls short when the games truly matter. What happens in the coming weeks will reverberate for years to come. If the Spurs successfully unite Wembanyama, Porzingis, and Williams, the entire Western Conference will have to fundamentally reevaluate their offensive strategies. Teams will be forced to hunt for bigger, more physical players just to survive the onslaught in the paint. The geometry of the court will change. And if the Pistons manage to land Kyrie Irving and he returns to even 80% of his former self, the Eastern Conference hierarchy will be shaken to its core. A Detroit team anchored by Cade Cunningham, bolstered by Jalen Duren, and supercharged by the closing brilliance of Kyrie Irving would instantly become a nightmare matchup for the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, and the rest of the conference elite. These are the moments that define eras in the NBA. The decisions made in the boardrooms of San Antonio and Detroit right now are not just about next season. They are about establishing a legacy, about building a sustainable culture of winning, and about taking the calculated risks necessary to reach the mountaintop. We are watching the evolution of roster construction happen in real time, driven by the unique brilliance of a generational phenom taking less money and the desperate ambition of a 60-win team looking for the final piece of their puzzle. This is the beauty and the brutal reality of professional basketball. The margins between building a dynasty and making a colossal mistake are incredibly thin. The Spurs are betting heavily on their medical staff and the selfless nature of their young superstar. The Pistons are rolling the dice on the rehabilitating knee of a veteran champion and their ability to integrate his immense talent into an already successful system. The stakes literally could not be higher. We will be monitoring these developing situations with absolute vigilance. Every whisper, every report, every potential trade iteration will be analyzed and broken down right here. The landscape of the league is shifting beneath our feet, and you do not want to miss a single second of the fallout. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and drop a comment down below with your thoughts. Do you think the Spurs Twin Tower gamble will pay off, or is the injury risk too severe? And what about the Pistons? Should they mortgage their future for a recovering Kyrie Irving, or should they look for a safer option to complement Cade Cunningham? Let us know your opinions in the comments section. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next deep dive.